Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast. Heather Stimmler is an American-born journalist and author living in France since 1995. She started the Secrets of Paris newsletter in 1999 as a hobby while working as an editor at Elle.com in Paris. Over the next 20 years, Secrets of Paris grew into a private tour company and a guidebook publisher. She's also written several books. We talked today about how Paris forever changed her life and how her creativity is constantly changing. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. If you want more bonus material and to support the show, head on over to patreon.com/La Vie Creative. And also don't forget to check out Amazon, where you can pick up my new book, Paris, A Life Less Ordinary. In the book, I talk about my creative adventures in Paris, from starting my business to being homeless, hello, starving artist, to how I met all these wonderful creative people. Don't forget to check it out on Amazon. And also thank you so much once more for listening and for your support. Enjoy the show. So welcome to the show, Heather. It's very nice to have you here. I photographed you years ago. You just told me 4 years ago, actually, which I can't believe it's been that long. And everyone knows about you from your amazing newsletter, The Secrets of Paris, your website. You've written several books. And I want to talk a little bit about how you got started in writing.
Oh, God. So I always wanted to be a writer. Like that was the first thing I ever thought I wanted to be. And my mom used to write, like she used to have a typewriter in the dining room table, and she would write science fiction stories, little short stories. And I don't know if that affected me somehow. She never wrote after that. I think like later on, I keep trying to encourage her to write, but I always wanted to be a writer. So I wrote poems in school and I wrote a play. I wrote any contest there was, I entered it, and everybody told me I was a good writer. But I remember being in English class in 7th grade, and they'd have like the bulletin board that they would decorate with different themes. So it was like careers in writing. And and I remember, I was like 12, so I wasn't really thinking about careers. I was going to be a writer, of course. But I remember I saw journalism was one of them, and I was like, I could do that. I could do that and make a living. So from about middle school, I decided I'd be a journalist. And that's basically where I got all of my real training in writing. So in high school, we had a high school newspaper that published weekly, which looking back was quite a luxury. I grew up in Scottsdale, Arizona, and we had the professor or the teacher who was our journalism teacher was from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State University. So we were really lucky, and we had computers, which this was like
wow.
Yeah, I know. So I'm Quark Express. That's what we were using. So I was 15 and writing articles and doing layout on Quark Express, and then got an internship as a student writer for the Phoenix Gazette, which, if there's anyone listening from Arizona, will probably not know what I'm talking about. It was the Phoenix Gazette and the Arizona Republic were two newspapers owned by the same owners, and the Gazette finally closed. So that's not there anymore. But so when I went to college, I studied political science because somehow my idea of becoming a writer and then becoming a journalist mutated as I got older. In high school, I wanted to do something to fight for the environment. So so I thought, well, I'm going to be a White House correspondent covering environmental news.
How far have you come from that?
Yeah, that was my idea. Yeah, that was my idea. So when I was at the Phoenix Gazette, the editors were like, "Don't go to journalism school." They're like, "Just go to a normal school and get a real education."
Oh wow!
So they convinced me to go. So I went to I went to Minnesota, Carleton College, which is this little liberal arts school in Northfield, Minnesota, and majored in political science, thinking that that would be a good basis for writing about politics. And I loved the academic environment so much that I thought maybe I'd stay there for the rest of my life. But it was really, really, really cold. So,
Yeah, I'm imagining how cold it is.
yes, so that's actually how I made it to Paris. As an aside, is that they really encouraged students to participate in the study abroad programs, and I'd never been outside of the United States, so I was like, well, I'm going to get out of Minnesota and go somewhere else. And the only language I had taken in school that past 2 years was French, so they were like, well, you can take a political science program in Paris if you want to do that. So that's how I ended up here.
That's such a crazy story. And they said the same thing to me in university because I wanted to study journalism as well. This was in 2008. And they were like, do not study journalism. It's a dying industry. Get a real job. And I was like, ah.
Yeah.
It's like so sad. But now you look at the world and I mean, it's not the same type of journalism, but all our lives are is writing with social media,
Yeah.
even if it's done poorly, it's everywhere.
I think more so than ever today, I think it's really important for people to actually learn what journalism is, even if they don't major in it. I feel like everybody could learn, instead of all of us taking English classes, like, I don't know what English literature is going to teach you about writing in the modern world.
Mm-hmm.
Although I say that having not taken any English literature classes.
I'll just
all the real
skip over
writers
that.
out there are going to kill me. Yeah.
Do you say that in a way of talking about like fake news and all that?
Yes, well, not just fake news, but also confusing news and journalism with publicity and opinion in general. So there's like for example, being an influencer and being a journalist are very different things, and some people don't seem to understand what the basic difference is. They're like, well, if I'm not lying, I'm writing what's real. Like, I really do think this is a great product. And I'm like, yeah, but you are like, you're like a celebrity.
You're paid to say that. Yeah.
Endorsement. That's what it is. I mean, when I was a kid, it was Suzanne Summers doing the Thigh Master advertisements. She's famous. She's an influencer. She's like, look, I use the Thigh Master. You can too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what an influencer is. You have influence, and somebody pays you to influence the public. It doesn't mean you don't like it, but it's not journalism.
Yeah, no, that's so true. My mom had her DVDs. I remember watching her Thigh Master away in the living room. I'm sure.
I think modern influencers would probably not want to be compared to that era.
No.
I think that's probably people who are over the age of 40 and remember all those infomercials and sort of like B-list stars who would go on there and try to sell you things.
Try to make some extra cash. Well, now everybody can be a B-list star, right? That's the world of social media.
Yes, exactly.
And talking about journalism, is there any major differences you see between how America and France broadcast news?
Oh, that's a great question. I actually don't have a television.
I like that.
I do try to watch French news. I use an app, Molotov app, which is a great app, to watch French television when I want to. So I do watch the news once in a while, but I'm not a big broadcast journalist fan at all, actually. I'm more of a print journalist fan, mostly because I think even in the United States, and it's definitely starting here, I think the French were a little bit behind in a good way. But broadcast journalism has really become more entertainment.
Yeah.
I mean, print isn't far behind depending on what you're reading, but there's almost no broadcast journalism that is, I mean, like I don't want to say generic stuff, but sort of your neighborhood or your local channel that isn't mostly entertainment at this point.
Mm-hmm. And how would you define true journalism as being non-biased, basically? Or what would you say?
Well, well, you could say non-biased. I think journalists can be biased. I don't think that's necessarily a problem, but they have to be honest when in their reporting. But oh gosh, what would be the difference between journalism and something, I guess, an opinion piece
Mm-hmm.
is use like basically you're saying something, but you're using actual facts to back up what you're saying. You shouldn't be saying anything. You shouldn't be putting forth your own anything. You should be
Mm-hmm.
just telling people what's happening and what's there. Obviously, investigative journalism is a whole different story, and there's some great investigative journalism out there still exists.
Yeah.
It takes, but it's expensive, and it usually takes years to compile some really good stories. But
Do you think that that's disappearing because people just want to be entertained? They want to like sell news as like, more profitable, get more eyes. Do you think we can ever go back to like true, authentic journalism with the way the world's going?
I mean, we all want to be entertained. I mean, especially at the end of the day when you're exhausted, you're like, I just want to watch something mind numbing. But I think people though are starting to get a little disgusted with just always being sold to, because everything is free now. I mean, we only had
Mm-hmm.
3 channels in these states when I was growing up, and PBS, and you had to pay for the newspaper. And with internet, everything is supposed to be free, but there's ads, and the ads are so annoying, and so much of the content is, if not flat out trying to please the advertisers, it's trying to get clicks. And
Mm-hmm.
someone said, if you don't want to keep seeing articles about like, oh my God, look at this old film star who looks horrible now, don't click on it. Like
Yeah.
if you don't want to see trashy articles, stop clicking when you see trashy article links,
Mm-hmm.
and they won't do good. But I think it's getting harder and harder for people. Attention span is something you have to work on. And if you're only used to getting your news in sound bites and on Twitter, it's really hard to convince people to read long articles. But all of the best articles that I share with people are so long. I feel like I'm apologizing each time because, you're like a 7-page article in Atlantic, and I'm like, this is important. And even when I'm reading it online, I'm scrolling and I'm scrolling. I'm like, oh my God, this is long, but it's also good. And I think it's showing all of, it's showing a whole topic. And especially today, things are so complicated. There's so few things that are black and white. And I think that's one of the basic, journalism was supposed to be a service. It was supposed to be a service of democracy and of the people, and you're supposed to help people understand the world. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're writing something that hasn't offered them any new information that helps them make, educated decisions about their lives, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise it's just entertainment.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm kind of like, not like that I lived during like the Middle Ages or something, but I'm thinking about like, even back then, wasn't there like they would pass out like pamphlets and things like that about like basically like a gossip column? Like, I feel like gossip has existed forever.
Oh yeah. Gossip. Yeah. There's always been gossip. Even in France. That's how they took down the monarchy.
Yeah, basically.
Horrible gossip about Marie Antoinette.
Poor Marie.
Yeah, yeah. He didn't have a chance. But yeah, no, there's always been, and in fact, people say that there was never really a golden age of journalism. It's always been, spun to anybody's ends. People, whether it's because they have money and they're trying to promote something, or even just, today people are like, well, the average newspaper still has sports and stock exchange and local crime, and they're like, there should be whole sections on like how not to like trash the world.
Yeah, exactly. I would love to read that section.
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting how what we need today. No one really seems to agree on that anyway. Like what kind of information we all need to be better citizens and better human beings. But I'm just appalled at how little I learn reading most news stories, though. And if it is even mildly interesting, you have to do so much digging to find a good source for any article.
Is there anywhere that you go for your information that you would recommend to others?
Well, there's the Paris stuff.
If they read French.
Yeah, exactly. No, in general, I actually, and I think because people are getting sick of it. They're getting, I hope, more willing to pay. But I subscribe to The Correspondent and to Reveal, Center for Investigative Journalism. I do pay for a New York Times subscription, even though I think they're really spotty on quality. Some sections are really good. I think it depends on the journalist, but I still read, I guess, any sort of long form journalism, even podcasts, if it's long interviews. I mean, this is a great idea, obviously, that's creativity, but listening to longer interviews, I think, is always going to be a learning experience. I like NPR. I still listen to NPR almost.
I love NPR.
Yeah.
NPR is great.
Yeah. And there's some great shows. And, you listen to, there's a lot of international programs from the BBC. So you get, I think it's called Hard Talk. Things like that are amazing because you have these journalists. I mean, they're British journalists, but they're talking to world leaders and not letting them squirm out of questions. So
yeah, it's shocking they go on these shows.
Yes, which is a big difference. Like I tuned into C News, which is a French channel of news, and I just couldn't watch it because they were just yelling over each other, and nobody was moderating it. And I'm like, oh my God. That's why.
Yeah, sounds French.
Yeah.
And coming back to social media, do you think social media could be a good thing for creativity? Like, I know we're kind of unsure as far as journalism goes, but do you think it's a good place to find inspiration or connect with other artists and things like that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it's great. I mean, I think as a creative person, you should be open to almost any type of information coming in or new things. And if you, I guess, like anything, I guess if you look at social media in terms of trying to find new and interesting ideas, as opposed to like just clicking on the same types of things to, I mean, some people are inspired by cat videos. Why not?
Yeah, a lot of people are inspired by cat videos.
Yeah, how many people were inspired to start their own, video channels or podcasts or any type of thing just by going online? I mean, YouTube is both amazing and horrible. Almost anything you want to know how to do, you can find a video on YouTube showing you how to do it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I stayed away from YouTube for so long because I feel like I had too many cat videos to sort through, and I was like, I don't even want to look at it. But my husband's like huge into YouTube, but he kind of uses it in the trashy way, like looking at those cat videos. But I've found a lot of great free information like on there, a lot of learning too. So.
I think with anything, you have to really be your own police. You have to police yourself. And if I mean, sometimes I know it's like, I know exactly what I'm doing when I start clicking on those videos that are in the sidebar. It's like, here we go.
Yeah, we're going into the deep, dark, nowhere.
I have found some of the best music that I love just from being suggested to listen to something else that's on YouTube. And I found organizations, like going back to Facebook, for example, I found things that exist because they were suggested, or events that were happening that I didn't know about. So, I mean, even for a journalist, if you can think of social media just as a tool like anything else and use it wisely, you can definitely get a lot out of it. And there's definitely times where I'm like, oh my God, I need to just get off Twitter or put something on there that does not let me read it between the hours of like 9 p.m. and 9 a.m.
Yes, you have to police yourself.
I know, because I'm not doing anything productive on there at 2 a.m. except making myself stressed out. So
yes, but it goes the other way too, because I go into these like, I take this free online course, learn how to, do this and do this. And then you get so wrapped up in all these free learning courses that you're like, where do I start? And I get stressed out about like, I should be doing all these other things and you're not doing enough, but where do you start? And I had to pay this person $2,000 to learn how.
Oh yeah. Well, and that brings up also the whole, like seeing what other people are doing, which can bring up feelings of inadequacy. I mean, look at what Instagram is making a whole generation of people feel like crap.
Yes.
At the same time, it's a great way to share things too. I mean, I share my crappy photos on Instagram more for like the information purposes, not because I think they're great photos, but every once in a while, one photo actually looks good. I'm like, wow. But like I shared a friend's photo, he's a photographer, and he took this amazing photo of the ceiling of Saint-Chapelle, and he's a Parisian, and he was like, It's like there was nobody in line. So I went in and I took a photo.
That's so funny.
Yeah. And so I shared, I was like, oh, can I share it? This is great because there's no more scaffolding up and
Yeah. It's the pandemic silver lining.
yeah, exactly. So I shared it. And of course, it got like twice as many likes as any of the photos I had ever shared.
Whoops.
I know. So I'm like, oh, I feel a little bad, but not really. But
Not really.
but it is hard because it's easy, I think, and I do worry, for younger people, like preteens especially who don't yet have their own lives together yet. But so many people who are looking at what look to be perfect lives online and thinking that their own lives don't measure up, and I think that can be a sad thing. But I mean, I grew up with 17 magazine thinking the same thing. I'm like, oh my god,
Yeah.
it's not perfect.
Yeah, they've changed the format, but it's the same ideas.
Exactly. So
and you're always sharing the latest secrets of Paris in your newsletter. You've been doing this since 1995. You've been here, you've had the newsletter since 1999. And how do you constantly come up with new stuff? Because it is secrets. I mean, I'm always amazed by what you have in there. I love it because I'm like, oh yes, because you get all these newsletters like, oh, I'm not going to open that one. But yours, I'm like, I got to open this. She's got some real stuff that I won't buy.
You were in it.
I know, and I didn't even know it. Like, wait, I was.
I sometimes get emails from people saying, so I have this new book out. Can you write about it? I was like, yeah, you were in 3 episodes ago. Because I usually don't tell people just because, unless I have to interview them for something or ask permission. But I like to try to keep it not unbiased, I guess. Well, definitely. I mean, it's stuff I like, so I'm totally
yeah.
But I'm trying to make it clear that these aren't people that have paid me. And people
told you.
Yeah, people do contact me all the time, and about half of them I don't even respond to because they're just not at all anything related to what I would share. But some of them I have to sort of let down. Well, like here's one, for example, and maybe if somebody in your audience is looking, they can email me and I will share the info. So somebody contacted me and she's a Dutch American, and she's like, I just got my license to do tattoo removal. And here's my new shop in Paris. And she's like, can you share it? And I was like, anything medical related, I'm hesitant. I think there might be a law about that, about sharing the names of like listing medical professionals. And I said, also, I don't have a tattoo, and I wouldn't know how to judge whether
that's newsworthy.
Yeah, well, it's not just newsworthy, but I'm like, how do I don't know if you're any good. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have somebody who was like, oh, I had my tattoo removed, and look, this person's awesome,
and I trust them.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, if I haven't tried it myself or have somebody else who has, I'm a little reluctant. Just again because I don't want somebody to have like their face burned off and then sue.
Oh God. So this is how you use social media. You're looking for new content for your amazing newsletter.
Yeah, and I just started writing a post actually today about I just started in August for the first time since I started Secrets of Paris. I have a membership now. It's through Steady. Steady is a bit like
Patreon?
Yes, like Patreon. Sorry, which I know a lot of Americans use Patreon. Steady is a German company, and it's mostly for publishers. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of their core base as opposed to creators, musicians. So I started a membership of Secrets of Paris members with a small group. So there's about 100 people on there now. And it's a way for me to just sort of talk freely about Secrets of Paris and what I'm working on. And for example, when I go on vacation, I share, because with Secrets of Paris, I feel really there's still a lot of trolls out there, and I don't know reading, and so I try to keep a lot of personal stuff off of there, or things that I think might get me in trouble. I'm like, it's
of course.
It's nice to have kind of a group of supporters where I'm like, what do you all think about this? Do I need to say this, or should I?
Yeah, people you trust and who adore you anyway.
Yeah, so I actually started writing a post for them to describe, because people always ask me, that's like, where do you get the ideas? And I was like, I'm just walking around Paris. So I basically shared what I did this weekend. And I was like, so I had 3 things that I had appointments for, and then just walking in between and walking around Paris and taking photos and seeing new shops and then popping into places and picking up flyers. And I had this huge list, and I come home and I go through it all. And then I look some of them up online and see if they might be worth doing like more research on or interviewing somebody. And some of them never make it into the newsletter. Some of them, it might take a while before they make it in. Like, just for example, I was just walking down the Boulevard Sebastopol and stopped in front of a store that had these bicycles with one blue wheel, called Swap Feet. And I was like, and they had a big sign saying, it's like the first subscription bike service from the famous blue tire people. And I was like, why do I know that? And it's because they're based in Amsterdam, I think, the original group. So I go to Amsterdam a lot for my day job. I was like, that's where I've seen them. I just thought they were weird Dutch people that had one blue wheel on the bike. So, but I was in a hurry for an appointment. So I just took a photo and I went inside really quick and grabbed a flyer and then looked it up when I was back here. And now I'm like, ooh, I need to test one of these bikes. Cause it's basically, you pay monthly and you get a bike and it's insured. And so if anything breaks or even if it gets stolen, they just replace it.
Oh, I love that idea because bikes get stolen so much
all
here.
the time. Yeah. And it's only 20 euros a month for a 7-gear bike or 16 a month for a 1-gear.
Oh, that's great. I think that's well worth the investment because your bike will be stolen.
I love the Believe. I use them, especially the electric bikes, but sometimes it is a real pain in the butt having to find the closest station and having a bike that works, that's ready. It's never like a showstopper, but it would be. I'm like, wow, I'd be so much more efficient if I just had a bike like right outside my door.
And if someone stole it, you get a new one.
Exactly. So a lot of stuff like that, I just find totally by chance. And I think it's really hard for people who don't live in Paris to write about Paris on a regular basis because they are sort of, all they can do is go with what they get online, with what they're already subscribed to. And, or worse, and this happens to me a lot, like over the years, I found that if I write about something, like I say, like, hey, I heard about this festival, because I do sometimes mention things I haven't gone to because they haven't happened yet, for example. And then I'll go and I'm like, oh, this actually sucks.
Why did I recommend this?
Or just like something's really hyped up and you're like, oh, this was totally not worth it.
Well, I love that you care so much about putting quality content because a lot of people would just, recycle and say, okay, this is happening. I don't know what it's going to be, but you're actually like, is this good or not?
Yeah. Well, I think I really write Secrets of Paris for me. First and foremost. And when I started it, it was in 1999. I was working for Elle.com and as an editor, not as a writer. But I had lots of people sending me stuff to publish, and most of it wasn't appropriate for Elle. Which is obviously a fashion magazine, but because I was always on these mailing lists, all my friends would be like, "Hey, so what's going on in Paris?" And I always knew all these weird, obscure things. But so I started writing about it just in a Yahoo group, which was like,
oh wow, 1995,
99. And also, I mean, I had worked before I was employed at Elle, which was like my only actual real employment in France. I think was the only actual salary job I had before working where I work now. But I'd worked as a bartender when I was a student, and I at an Irish bar at Châtelet, which is no longer open. It closed, I think, in 2002. But it was this crazy expat bar, and we used to sit around and laugh at these magazines, these sort of expat magazines that used to be out. There was so many that came and went over the years, but they were really targeting either tourists or these sort of what we used to call the ladies who lunch. Apologies to all you ladies who lunch. I would love to be one of you. But basically we thought it was targeting like these sort of businesswomen's businessmen's. Yeah. It was almost always targeting the wives of businessmen who were stationed in Paris for like 2 years for like working for IBM or And
Mhm.
they always lived in like a company apartment in the seventh arrondissement, and I used to babysit for them.
Yes, yes, the trailing
The
spouses
trail, yes, there we go. That's
with
the
disposable income and not much to
exactly.
do.
And the kind of crowd that would hang out at the American church. And I just felt like it was so far from the experience of most of us living in Paris. And when I came as, like I said, as a student, and they made us read Polly Platt's book, French or Faux, which was an amazing book because it was the first of its kind, sort of like the secrets of like not feeling like an idiot in French
Mhm.
society, except that it was written by a diplomat's wife. And although it was helpful to know that you shouldn't walk around with a smile on your face all the time, you look like a moron.
Yes, we've all been there.
That was helpful to know, but most of her advice was meant for, like the wives of people who were in quote unquote society in Paris. And I was a student, like, all the French students I knew were just, kind of Neanderthals like we were. They
Yeah.
dressed better, but I remember going to a dinner. It was like these aristocrats, which that alone was just a weird discovery. We all were living with French families as part of our study abroad program. And one of my friends was living with a family who owned the entire building on the Quai Voltaire facing the Louvre, which should
Wow.
have been a sign itself, except I knew nothing about Paris when I arrived.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that should have been a sign. And the fact that like, well, grandma lives on the first floor and the cousins live on the third floor. So like the 22-year-old or 25-year-old son, we were all 20 years old at the time. So like the older son invited us to his party where with his fiance and all of his friends and up on a higher floor. And we thought that would be cool to go and meet these people because she found out just by looking at the mail that they were a count and countess. Like nobody
Wow.
told her. Just looking at the mail, it's like Monsieur le Comte, and she's like, "Huh." That explains it. But so we went to this dinner thinking that it was going to be all fancy and posh because they're all aristocrats, and they were like just like us, like students, and they served basically tater tots
Yes.
tater tots and spaghetti with ketchup, like literally a squeeze bottle of ketchup.
They wanted to make their American friends happy.
I think so, yeah. And I remember my friend was even more clueless than I was. She asked something that I still to this day I always thought it was hilarious. She asked them all, and there was probably like 30 people there, like mostly again our age ish, 20
Mhm.
something, and they were talking about this place where their wedding was going to be, and they kept talking about it. And she said, "Well, is that a city?" And they're like, "No, that's our home. That's the chateau."
Wow.
And she laughs and she says, and people already stopped talking to hear this conversation, so it started getting quieter and quieter. And she said she kind of thought about it, and then you could almost see the like wheels turning in her head, and her eyes light up, and she says, "So, do you guys celebrate Bastille Day?"
Oh my
And
God.
they were just like, "No, we all go to the memorial march for Louis the 16th, and on it January 21st, they're like, "You're welcome to join us."
Such a student experience. I mean,
Yeah.
what a great intro to Paris.
Yeah, it was very real. So it was like very down, like, I mean, I feel like they were in a way kind of purposefully slumming it for fun. But at
Yes,
the end of the
yes.
day, they were still aristocrats. So we were like,
What is going on? I think that we have so many weird experiences like that because, we are in the kind of industry where we can like meet people like that and stuff like that, especially like photography. I'm always like having weird experiences like that. I'm just like, wow, like here's this count or here's this castle or here's Roman Polanski at dinner at the Maurice. It's like, what the heck is going on? Like I am not on this level, but our worlds collide somehow. And it's
maybe
because
that's
of
what
Paris.
living in New York is like. I mean, I grew up in Scottsdale, which is a suburb of Phoenix, which is not that exciting of a city in the 80s, and then went to school in rural Minnesota.
Yeah.
So just being in a city for me was like, oh, this is how city people live. Like they know things about, other cultures besides just their own.
Yes, that was so shocking to me moving to Paris. It's like, you know things more about my country than I do. Thank you.
Yeah. And I was really, and I was trying to find the photo of me in the first week I was in Paris sitting on the steps of the school wearing caterpillar boots, big baggy jeans, and
Oh.
a plaid flannel shirt. I had really, really long hair. It was in a braid. And and I'm like, and I remember thinking back then, like, how can they all tell I'm American?
Wipe that smile off your face.
Yeah, and actually the same count, the same father there was gave me my first sort of chastisement for not knowing what the hell I was doing, because I went to meet my friend. She's like, "Let's go to the Louvre for breakfast. Like let's go in the morning, and then we go to class together." I was like, "Oh, great idea!" So, I go to her place, and we're sitting there having our tartine in the dining room or the kitchen, I guess. And the dad walks in, Monsieur Lecomte. He's very nice older man, and says something. I'm like, "We're going to the Louvre." And I just remember he's like, "Oh, no. Bon Parisien." He's like, "All good Parisians know that the Louvre is closed on Tuesdays."
Like, okay, I'm so lost.
So I mean, I always, all the years I was giving tours and people were like apologizing for their ignorance. I'm like, do not. I'm like, you are here, make the most of it. I was like, trust me, like everybody starts somewhere. And I'm like, I was the biggest idiot in my study abroad group. So I think I stayed just out of sheer stubbornness. And again, like always just reading all of what everybody else wrote about Paris just seemed to leave out so many of what me and a lot of the other students felt were like the real secrets, like just how to get by on no money.
Yeah, exactly. That's a real secret in Paris.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, even like the Resto U, like you could get those tickets to get into the student university canteens, which I think it was like 2 francs back then, which was, I mean, 6 francs was $1. So, 2 francs, like less than $1 to eat. So of course, like even after we weren't students, we were trying all the time to get in.
Back in there.
Yeah, obviously today it's harder because everything's digitized, but I wanted to really write something that just not just poked fun a little bit at all of these, things that were just beyond our budget. I mean, none of us were shopping in Grand Magasin. Like,
Yeah, no, it's so funny because, I was an au pair when I first came to this city. I didn't have any money. And then, we all work our butts off and we start to make some money here. And it's like, oh my God, I have money. I can actually take that day trip to San Michel or like go to Disney, Euro Disney or whatever. But then you become too busy to enjoy anything. So it's like you're either super poor hanging out or you're too busy to enjoy the money you actually made, and it all goes into your rent anyway.
Yes. And I mean, when I started Secrets of Paris, and I did have a day job, and then I was married to an Englishman, and we moved to the south of France a year after we got married. So I quit. I quit Elle. I didn't know about the whole golden parachute thing back then, that they were going to close our office and they moved it to New York eventually. So Elle.com is done by the Elle USA office. But at the time it was done, we had our own little independent group in Paris. And I think 2 weeks after I left, they laid everybody off.
Well, that was a good time to leave,
I guess, but they all got paid to leave, whereas I left. My boss knew, and she let me go. She let me quit.
She's a monster.
She was, yeah. She's probably not listening to this. She's Canadian. She, the big editor in chief for Elle.com, and this is 1999 when the internet was not cool in Paris at all, especially not cool for Elle magazine. Like the women from the actual magazine, because we all worked in the Hachette building at Le Valois, they used to steal our mail from us.
What?
Because when you would get the invitations for Fashion Week, they all come in the same envelope.
They would steal.
The mail got delivered on their floor first, so they would see, their invitation to Chanel, and then they would see another envelope with our name on it and just take it. So
that is so smart. I love this. Yeah. Back when you could still do that.
We all shared the same cafeteria, and it was like you could tell who the Elle France editors were, because boy did they dress well, but they hated us. And our editor in chief was actually worked for I won't say which one because that'll be too easy to look her up, but she was punished. She was sent to be our editor as a punishment because she was on another magazine and did something wrong. I don't know.
Oh gosh, so you were like the prison of editorial.
Exactly. So she was like, she was exactly like Devil Wears Prada. Like she would storm in once in a while, scream at all of us, and then storm out. But that was
sounds like so dreamy.
Yeah, well, and I was in charge of the travel section because I knew nothing about fashion, which they all mocked me for endlessly. So that's how I got started as a travel writer. It was because when I left I had all these sort of contacts for travel writing. And
It's all about the contacts, right?
yeah, so we moved to the south of France, and I was down there for 4 years, and that's when 9/11 happened, and the dot
Great timing.
and the dot-com burst. So everybody who's crying right now, I feel you. But back when the dot-com bubble burst, a lot of people like me were working only online, and suddenly all of these websites that I was freelancing for, like overnight, all closed, and some of them owing me a lot of money.
Oh, wow.
So we've been through this. We've been through this
Before. I mean, history repeats itself, right?
over and over. Yeah.
And that's the thing about being a creative and especially like a freelancer. I'm not talking about the people who are just making art, for the joy and enjoying it. I'm talking about people who try to make a living at it. It can be definitely trying.
I think that's the hardest part. Have you read Big Magic?
I'm obsessed with that book. I've read it like 3 times.
I don't know if you've talked about this yet on your podcast, but I mean, Elizabeth Gilbert is brilliant when she tells people like, stop trying to make your art pay for your life.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of us have the choice. Sometimes that's the only way that you can make a living is through your art. But it's true that it does make it a lot harder to. It's hard to be a creative person and try to live off of that. It can be really painful sometimes. But sometimes you don't have a choice. Like I didn't necessarily want to be a freelance travel writer, but I had no job. And I still had this idea I was going to be a real journalist. So I was writing actual news up until 9/11 and the dot-com crash, and then all the news, all the budgets for having the French Riviera correspondent just dried up.
Wasn't that a nice job while it lasted?
But for about 3 years, I was the Riviera reporter. That was my old website.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I like that on your CV, your resume. And why do you think creatives are attracted to Paris?
It's. I think there's just because there's so much going on here. I mean, it's always been an inspiring city. I mean, a lot of it is sort of artifice, but they back it up, like the architecture and the fashion and the art. And I mean, I guess there was one time music. I don't know about now on that one, but with food, just having so many people feeling like they can be free to be creatives. I mean, I was shocked. Even when I was still a student here, and my French, despite having taken it in school for 8 years, my French was horrific. But I felt more comfortable because if I told people here that I was a writer, they didn't say immediately, like, so how are you going to pay the bills or what's your day job? They just were like, oh, great. What do you write about?
Yeah.
I mean, there was a real respect for creativity and the creative life, and also just not a pressure to be a star. Like you can just be a writer or a painter. And, for a long time I was just writing, and I was also giving tours, but, I was married for almost 8 years. And so I could get away with not having to support myself. But I remember the first few years before I started my own tour company, I was doing tours and making a lot in cash, which, let's all be honest, we're not always going to declare all of our cash. I mean, sometimes you have to put that cash in your bank account so you can pay your rent. But at one point I was like, I don't know, like, I think I better, one of the reasons I started a company, it was like, I have to make this legit, because like, there's no way the tax man's going to believe that I can survive off of 12,000 euros a year. And I just saw one of my French friends being like, well, you're a writer. Of course you don't make more than 12,000 euros a year.
Yeah, you're poor and it's okay.
And I think, like, they'd probably be more suspicious if you were making more money than that. I was like,
yeah.
But I can't survive. So, I mean, I'd started giving tours in 2004, full time, first for other companies and then for myself. And that was really, actually, that was for two reasons. One, because I moved back to Paris just after my divorce, but also just before that, I'd actually worked a year for EF tours when I was still married. EF if any of you had taken like a high school, like,
I took one.
Your first class, yeah. Like, all EF is the biggest like school student tour company.
I went to Italy and Greece with them before I moved to Paris.
Yeah, so I mean, I took 3 days of training, and then they just let me loose with 60 students. 60 16-year-olds and sent me to Italy and Spain, even though I told them I spoke no Spanish and no Italian.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, I'm sure they would defend that, saying, "Well, clearly you knew that you could do it. We knew you trusted that you wouldn't lose any children." And I didn't lose any of them, although I lost like 10 pounds in 2 months.
Stress.
Yeah, from
Stress.
stress. Yeah, so like, that's not for me. But one of the reasons I did that job the first time was when I was still married. In 2002, the euro came in, so everything changed from francs to euros. And for about, I don't know, maybe it was a year, maybe it was less than that, the dollar and the euro were exactly the same. Like almost to the penny, like exact. And then the dollar started slipping. And my ex-husband worked in finance. And I still remember him saying, because all my writing work that I still had was in mostly dollars and then also some pounds, because I worked for EasyJet. But most of my income was coming from dollars, and the exchange rate was killing us. And he said, he's like, I don't think the dollar's coming back anytime soon. I'm, like, of course it is. Yeah, the dollar's always been stronger since the invention of the dollar. So I was being an idiot. And he was like, why don't you just get a summer job in euros just for fun? So he kind of nudged me in that direction. And in the end, that sort of saved my butt, because the tours became the way that I could fund my writing.
I love that. Yeah, sometimes you have to get another job to fund what you actually want to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the tours also became a way of making it really, it was really symbiotic, giving tours and writing about Paris, because I had been writing guidebooks for almost three or 4 years before I started doing tours. And I came to Paris the first time for a whole year, for a whole student school year. Didn't even visit the Eiffel Tower until I'd already been in Paris for years. So I never really knew what it was like coming to Paris as a tourist. So I couldn't really relate to what it was like to not know anything, but also only have a week to figure it out. So I mean, and a lot of guidebook writers are like that. So I didn't know that I wasn't giving them a lot of, important information, or giving them too much information that was useless and not, so I felt like when I gave tours, I still remember like one of my very first tours, it was a guy who was a business traveler, and he was staying out at the airport. And I was so happy to show him around. And he was like, I finally feel like I'm not wasting my business trip to Paris. I'm actually going to see something. And he invited me to have dinner with him. He's like, I don't really want to eat alone. So I got to have like a great meal. I think it was at the Maurice, actually. Yeah, I know. I was like, I like this job. This is great. And I remember telling him, like, don't worry. The metro runs back to the airport until like almost 1:00. Well, of course, the metro runs until almost 1:00, but the RER to the airport, at least back then, like 2004, stopped at like 3. And I remember I thought I was being really nice by walking him to the platform. I'm like, I'll show you. I'm like, because I'm like, it's late. You need to figure out. I want to make sure you get on the right RER back to Charles de Gaulle. And I'm standing there and I'm looking around, and I look up at this, and there's nobody on the platform, and I'm like, huh. And it clicked, and I saw the sign saying, like 11:50, 11:50 or something like that. And I was like, let me pay for your taxi.
Wait, but if he can afford the Maurice, he can afford the taxi.
I mean, he was like, don't worry about it. He's like, I feel better taking a taxi anyway. But it was like a hard lesson to learn. I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, maybe I don't know. So just because you live in Paris doesn't mean you're a good tour guide. So
you are a good tour guide.
Yeah, I had to learn that, but it was great though. So giving tours meant that I visited hotels. I walked around Paris all day, went to lunch with them, would hear from them how, stuff that they had seen, and would check up on it. And also it was fun because they were always private tours. It was fun to be walking down the street and being like, hey, here's a new store. Hey, you guys let's go check this out. Come test it.
Yeah, you could have more fun.
It was fun because they felt like they were discovering something too. And
and that very small.
Yeah. And it was a way for me to constantly be, aware of every little change in Paris. Because again, that's what makes Paris so great, is that it's changing all the time.
It is constantly changing. And the crazy thing is, like, I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like it's not marketed really. Like, that's why you're walking around just seeing things, because there's nowhere to really read about this stuff except for like your newsletter and maybe if you like read French newspapers. But as English speakers, I think it's very hard to
find good stuff. And I do try to find things in the French press that I think would be interesting. I mean, the newsletter is about half and half for tourists and half for people like
locals.
You and me. Yeah, locals. I mean, there's also a lot of Americans or a lot of visitors who come every single year or have an apartment here. I mean, some of my clients knew Paris since they were teenagers, so they'd been coming longer than I'd been alive. So I would learn things from them. But some of the stuff that I would share isn't at all useful for a tourist. But I think a lot of the tourists liked seeing that, though, because it kind of gave them a little bit of an insight into what real life is like in Paris, which is
exactly
not having time to do stuff.
Exactly. We finally have money, but we have no time. Welcome to city life, guys. Exactly. But that's why it's great to visit, and people who are dreaming of living here, just know that maybe it's not always as dreamy, and it is nice just to be a visitor when you can come and go and really enjoy this stuff.
I really liked Paris better when I started writing about it for tourism than when I was just living here and working. Because you do get into that whole metro boulot dodo routine just at home.
It's hard to find the balance even in an amazing city like this, but it is nice because my favorite thing about living here is all the interesting people I meet that are doing things like, you know, what you do and the writers and the painters. And where can people sign up for your newsletter and learn more about you?
They can find me on secretsofparis.com. So I also have Instagram where you can find my kind of crappy-ish photos.
And your friends' photos.
And my friends' photos. There you go. I don't really tweet, and Facebook I just basically share what's on the website anyway. But the website is just a place where I put things that I want to keep in one spot so I know where to find them again. But most of the information that's in the newsletter doesn't make it onto the website, mostly from lack of time. So I do recommend people that if you want to make sure you get all the insider stuff, is to subscribe to the newsletter. And it's free. If you want to be a member of the little membership group, that's €5 a month. But the newsletter's always been free, and it will always be free. So
wonderful. I'm a huge fan. I didn't even know I was in it. I got to be a bigger fan. And thank you so much for chatting with me, Heather.
Thanks for inviting me. This is really fun to talk to you. And your podcast is great. I've learned so much about all these historic figures. I really like Hemingway's her series.
Yeah, Claudine's amazing. I'm a big fan of her too. Well, thank you so much, and we'll chat soon. Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.